So you want to boost your IELTS Writing Task 1 score? Well, let me tell you, mastering your grammatical range and accuracy is absolutely non-negotiable. Today, we're going to dive deep into the exact grammar skills that can unlock a much higher band score for you.
Does this sound familiar? You've practiced, you know the structure, you feel like you're doing everything right, but your score just will not move past that band 6. Well, I've got good news. The key to unlocking that 7, 8, or even 9 might be hiding in plain sight right there in your sentences.
Welcome to the Explainer by IELTS Guide, Phil. We're here to break down all those complex strategies you need for IELTS success and turn them into clear, actionable steps, all based on the fantastic insights from IELTS Guide, Phil.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with why grammar is such a big deal. Then we'll clear up the difference between range and accuracy. After that, it's time to build your grammar toolbox with some high-scoring structures, show you how to avoid those common traps, and give you a real strategic practice plan. And of course, we'll wrap it all up with some final tips. So let's just jump right in. Why all this fuss about grammar? Well, to put it simply, it's the bedrock, the foundation of your entire writing score. Without it, everything else kind of falls apart.
25%. Let that sink in for a second. A full quarter of your total score for Writing Task 1 comes down to just your grammar. So if you ignore this, you're basically leaving a huge chunk of your potential points on the table. It's often the single biggest difference between a good score and a truly great one.
Okay, so we get it. It's important. But what are the examiners actually looking for when they read your response? Well, this whole criterion is split into two really important ideas: grammatical range and grammatical accuracy. Let's break them down.
First up, we've got range. Think of this as showing off your flexibility. It's about proving you can use a whole variety of grammatical structures. Are you mixing up your simple and complex sentences? Are you using different verb tenses, different clauses? The goal here is to show the examiner you have a whole toolbox of grammar tools, not just a single hammer.
But you know, range is only half the battle. Accuracy is all about how well you use those tools. It's no use building a really fancy, complex sentence if it's full of mistakes, right? The examiner has to understand you perfectly, and all those little errors can really add up and drag your score down. It's a total balancing act. And hey, don't just take my word for it. Look at the official band descriptors right here. At a band 5, you see limited range and frequent errors. But jump up to a band 7, and suddenly they're looking for a variety of complex structures and frequently error-free sentences. And that band 9, it's all about a wide range with full flexibility and accuracy. You can literally see the roadmap to a higher score laid out for you.
Okay, so now that we know the what and the why, let's get to the fun part, building your grammar toolbox. These are the absolute essential structures you need to have ready to go for Task 1.
All right, let's start with the basics. You absolutely have to have control over your verb tenses, especially the simple past for describing trends that have already finished. Comparatives and superlatives, things like higher than or the most dramatic fall, these are going to be your best friends. And don't forget the passive voice. It's so good for that formal academic tone. Think a steady increase was observed instead of I saw an increase. See the difference?
Now for the good stuff, the tools that really show off your range. Using complex sentences with things like relative clauses, for example, Germany, which had the highest exports, that just instantly adds sophistication. And please, I'm begging you, vary your sentence beginnings. Don't just write "the graph shows" over and over. Try starting with "following a decline" or "in contrast to." It's an instant score booster, I promise.
So knowing the tools is one thing, but actually using them correctly without falling into any traps, that's the real challenge. So let's look at some of the most common grammar mistakes students make, and more importantly, how you can avoid them.
Just take a look at this classic example from a line graph. The version on the left, that's a pretty typical band 5 or 6 attempt. The graph show, oops, that's a subject-verb agreement error. It increase, wrong tense. Now look at the good version. It fixes those mistakes and uses much better vocabulary like demonstrates and dramatically. I mean, the difference is night and day, isn't it?
And here we go again, this time with a bar chart. Men and women has, another classic subject-verb mistake. The sentences are also super simple, super choppy. But the better version? It uses a complex sentence starting with while to make a direct, sophisticated comparison. It just shows so much more control over the language.
So, to help you catch these mistakes before the examiner does, here's a fantastic 5-point checklist from IELTS Guide Phil. 1. Check your subject-verb agreement. 2.
Get your articles right. Is it an increase or the increase? 3. Use the right prepositions, like increased from X to Y. 4. Keep your tenses consistent. And 5. Please avoid those long, tangled run-on sentences. Keep it clear.
All right, we've got the tools, we know the traps to avoid, now it's time to get practical. Let's talk about your strategic plan for practice, because this is how you actually turn all this knowledge into a higher band score.
Here's a quick and easy summary for you. You absolutely do want to vary your sentences and always proofread. What you don't want to do is stick to boring, simple sentences, but you also don't want to force some complex grammar that you're not 100% sure about. Remember, accuracy is king, and don't you dare ignore those tiny little words like a, an, and the. They matter more than you think.
So what does good practice actually look like? Well, here are 4 things you can start doing right away. Try sentence transformation. Take a simple sentence and see how you can make it more complex. Actively study and practice the common language patterns for task 1. Analyze sample answers, including your own, and hunt for errors. And finally, you have to practice under timed conditions. You've only got 20 minutes in the real exam, so you got to be fast and accurate.
We're almost at the finish line. Let's just wrap this all up with one last, crucial piece of advice and then point you in the right direction for what to do next.
If you only remember one thing from this entire explainer, please let it be this quote from IELTS Guide Phil. Prioritize clarity and accuracy over unnecessary complexity. Seriously, a clear, correct sentence is always better than a complicated one that's full of mistakes. That is the golden rule for getting a high score here.
But hey, your learning journey doesn't stop here. To keep improving, you can go read the full blog post over at IELTSGuidePhil.com, watch more of these video explainers right here on the channel, listen to some deep dives on the Spotify podcast, and join the Facebook community for extra support. Don't worry, all the links are waiting for you down in the description.
And finally, the absolute best way to see if your grammar is getting better? It's getting expert feedback. So if you're interested in some personalized coaching for your writing and speaking, just drop a comment below to learn all about IELTS Guide Phil's online coaching services. Thanks so much for watching.